You know the legend of the Alamo, a brave last stand, Davy Crockett, the wild frontier's hero battling relentlessly against Santa Anna's forces until his final breath. But what if the story you've heard is false? For almost 2 centuries, school books have depicted Davy Crockett as a martyr who died in the flames of the Alamo. Yet hidden archives, suppressed Mexican war journals, and secret orders from Andrew Jackson reveal a very different tale, one of betrayal, escape, and a massive cover-up that reshaped history itself. Was Crockett truly the steadfast hero portrayed? Or did he break away from his legend and survive? Why did Andrew Jackson, his former commander-turned-president, work so hard to conceal the truth? What dark secrets linked to America's push westward were buried with the men inside those mission walls? This story is far more than just a battle. It's about power. It's about the narratives forced upon us and the lies that forged a nation. Get ready. By the end of this video, your understanding of the Alamo, Crockett, Jackson, and the birth of Texas will be turned upside down. The truth awaits you. But first, please like and subscribe to support our community. Davy was born in 1786 in Greene County, North Carolina, an area now part of Tennessee, but then under North Carolina's rule. His father, John, owned a grist mill until flooding destroyed the mill and nearby homes. By 1795, the family's finances had collapsed to the point where John was forced into bankruptcy. The hardships became so intense that John legally apprenticed his son to Jacob Sealer through a contract. Growing up isolated in the backwoods, young Davy received very little formal schooling, mostly due to his rebellious nature and habit of skipping classes when enrolled. Instead, a knowledgeable neighbor provided about 100 days of informal lessons. John tried to compel his son to return to school, but Davy, fiercely independent, chose to leave and make his own way. In his youth, Crockett worked a variety of odd jobs, including farming and herding cattle. Later, he returned home to help his father pay off the family debts. Known for defying social conventions, Davy's unconventional nature was evident in his love life. While employed on John Kennedy's land, he fell for Kennedy's niece, Amy Summer, who was already promised to Kennedy's son. Undeterred, Crockett convinced a wedding guest to marry him, only for her to choose another suitor. Eventually, Davy wed Polly Finley, though her family opposed the union. Together, they had 3 children, including a son who later represented Tennessee in Congress. Tragically, Polly died in 1815. Afterward, Crockett married Elizabeth Patton, a widow, and fathered 3 more children with her. Like many men of his era, Crockett's public career began with military service. In 1813, Creek warriors attacked Fort Mims in present-day Alabama, killing almost everyone inside. This brutal event fueled support for the Creek War, a complex conflict involving rival Creek factions. American forces allied with Lower Creeks, led by Andrew Jackson, while Red Stick Creeks were backed by British and Spanish allies. Crockett joined Tennessee's militia and saw combat. He later admitted he preferred hunting in Alabama over fighting indigenous tribes. Despite this, he remained under Jackson's command until growing disillusioned. Eventually, he hired a substitute, a struggling laborer, to serve in his place until his official discharge in 1815. Though imperfect, his military experience inspired him to pursue public roles. He became a commissioner, helping survey and map Tennessee's newly formed Lawrence County. This marked the start of his swift rise in local politics. By 1817, he was a justice of the peace, and a year later, a lieutenant colonel in Tennessee's 57th Militia Regiment. After success in private business, Crockett returned to politics in 1821, representing Lawrence and Hickman counties in the state legislature. His policies reflected his upbringing on the frontier, advocating populist causes and opposing harsh taxes on the poor. These positions earned him fervent support among small farmers and laborers, but also made powerful enemies who later engineered his political fall. Crockett's journey from obscurity to national figure was remarkable, though his political career saw many ups and downs. He ran several times for the U.S. House of Representatives. After losing in 1825, he won consecutive terms in 1827 and 1829. Defeated again in 1831 by William Fitzgerald, Crockett reclaimed his seat narrowly in 1833. However, in 1835, he lost decisively to Adam Huntsman. While an effective legislator, Crockett carefully cultivated his public image, writing memoirs and delivering speeches to highlight his rugged, charismatic frontiersman identity. In 1834, he published The Life of David Crockett, claiming sole authorship. In truth, it was co-written with Kentucky Congressman Thomas Chilton. The memoir stressed Crockett's frontier adventures while downplaying his legislative and business affairs. Though popular in Tennessee, his political ambitions were ultimately crushed by Andrew Jackson's faction, which dominated Tennessee politics. Jackson, a famed military hero and Memphis co-founder, wielded immense influence. Crockett's political clash with Jackson's supporters began in 1821 when he backed Whig candidate William Carroll over Edward Ward for governor, a risky but initially successful move. Crockett's opposition to Jackson's policies, particularly the Indian Removal Act, earned him many enemies and contributed to his downfall. Despite setbacks, Crockett's blend of frontier legend and political defiance made him a uniquely American folk hero. Carroll won the governorship and rewarded Crockett, but Jackson never forgave what he viewed as betrayal by a former subordinate. The rift deepened in 1823 when Crockett defeated Jackson's nephew-in-law, William Edward Butler, for a state assembly seat. Unaware of Jackson's deep resentment, Crockett misjudged his political power. By 1824, Jackson launched his first presidential campaign. Though winning the popular vote and most electoral votes, John Quincy Adams secured the presidency through the House. Crockett's relief was brief. Jackson decisively defeated Adams in 1828. During this era, Crockett strongly defended settlers occupying government land in western Tennessee. Opposing Jackson aligned him with the Whigs, and he even pushed to close West Point, arguing it catered unfairly to elites. His most famous act was opposing the 1830 Indian Removal Act, where he was the lone Tennessee delegate against it. Though praised by Cherokee communities, many Tennessee voters disapproved. This stance contributed to Crockett's defeat in 1831. Following this loss, his future was uncertain. Morbidly fascinated by Texas statehood, Crockett vowed to friends that if Martin Van Buren, Jackson's chosen successor, won in 1836, he would leave for Texas to lead a revolt. When Van Buren, nicknamed the Little Magician, won, Crockett kept his word. Telling a journalist he said he had pledged loyal service to constituents, but if rejected, they could go to hell. He would go to Texas. Using his natural charisma, Crockett rallied volunteers for Texas's independence cause, delivering a passionate speech at Madison County's courthouse that drew hundreds of eager supporters. By early 1836, Crockett arrived in Texas and pledged loyalty to its provisional government. His signed oath read, "I have sworn allegiance and enlisted as a volunteer," and he soon marched with other Americans toward the Rio Grande. On February 8th, Crockett entered the Alamo mission in San Antonio, a crucial stronghold defending the Texas Republic. Originally a Spanish mission, the Alamo had become a fortified base during Apache conflicts. After Mexico inherited the territory from Spain in 1821, Texan rebels took control of the Alamo in 1835. 2 weeks after Crockett's arrival, General Santa Anna's forces surrounded the fort. Surprised, the defenders endured a siege by Santa Anna's overwhelming army. Mexican troops met fierce resistance but steadily advanced under artillery fire. Crockett and his men fought courageously. He led assaults on 4 nearby huts held by Mexican soldiers, repelling their advances with hand-to-hand combat and cannon fire from the Alamo. Another counterattack briefly succeeded, but hopes faded as calls for reinforcements went unheard. After 13 days, Santa Anna's final assault broke the defenders in 90 minutes. Crockett died in the chaos. Accounts differ. Some say he died fighting bravely to the end. Others claim he surrendered and was executed. Regardless, Davy died that day, and his body was burned with fellow defenders. The location of his ashes is unknown. As the most famous casualty of the siege, Crockett became a lasting symbol of Texas's hard-fought independence. His image, often shown wearing a raccoon skin hat typical of frontier hunters, captivated many Americans. His legend as a rugged, fearless pioneer remains a strong cultural icon. Raised on the frontier and skilled in hunting, this image held some truth. Yet Crockett was also a savvy man who carefully crafted this persona to advance political and business aims. His death in battle, fighting to extend America's boundaries and shape Texas, bears a tragic sense of fate. So what truly happened to Davy Crockett? Did he die a martyr's death, as legend states? Or did he vanish amid battle smoke, leaving behind a mystery powerful men wanted concealed? The defenders' ashes scattered to the wind, but so did the truth. Jackson's enemies whispered of secret deals. Mexican officers wrote of a captive red-headed devil spared by Santa Anna, and decades later, a man resembling Crockett was reportedly seen in Louisiana bayous, alive. History is penned by survivors. But what if the survivors lied? What if the Alamo was not a tragedy, but a deliberate sacrifice, a bloody display to spark war and silence a man who knew too much? The Alamo's ruins endure, unmarked graves whisper, and Crockett's spirit haunts the boundary between myth and reality. I'll leave you with this. Why do some legends refuse to die, and why do we fear letting them live? Truth is never buried, only waiting to be unearthed.